to Doctoring You, a place for better health through higher understanding. This Doctoring You presentation will highlight real patient experiences and shared insights for your enlightenment and education. Join Dr. Siu with his guest for Part 1 in a discussion on Alzheimer's, experiences and caring for a loved one. And now, Dr. Michael Siu.
I'm Dr. Michael Siu. I have a guest here, Gloria, who's going to be with us to tell us about her experience in the care of her elderly mother with Alzheimer's. Thank you, Gloria, for coming.
Thank you,
And
Doctor.
with the background of your mom being age 96 and has been having Alzheimer for a number of years, can you help us understand a little bit about what you've gone through in stages? Mostly in the beginning, it's like establish what she was like. What was her family lifestyle before she got sick? And knowing that this is a huge socioeconomic problem, not only for the unit of family, but also for the entire community as a whole. And then nation-wise, this is a huge cost, a burden to not only the individual, but the family and society. So tell us a little bit about your mom.
Well, she grew up in the Midwest, was raised in Missouri, oldest of 10 children, was a very, very hard worker, supported my brother, sister, and I, and raised us, and became quite successful in real estate, and has always been independent and very bright. So when we started seeing first signs of my mom disappearing, we became alarmed.
Now, being so independent and successful, I understand your father also passed on much earlier, something like 20 years ahead of time. I mean, how did she manage on her own all those years?
She's always been very independent. My father's passing actually didn't affect her, other than emotionally, didn't affect her her situation. She
Okay.
worked up until
She
2 or 3
worked.
years ago.
Okay.
She's 96 now.
I know this. Now, is the family all around her? I mean, the kids.
No, my sister lives out of state, and we don't have a lot of family support where she's living.
Okay.
So I moved to where her home was.
Now you have your own family, and likewise, your brother and sister, they have their own family. And would you describe that as a cohesive unit? I'm sure every family has their own problems. How would you, in a scale 1 to 10, 10 being the best, would you grade yourself with your family at 4, 5?
I would say 3 in my
3.
particular
Okay.
situation.
Okay. Now, of course, not every family out there listening to this, their variation is going to be a huge, from 0, no adhesion to maximum, and sometimes even beyond what they want. I think this is a big factor when it comes to a disease like Alzheimer, is that it's a give and take, because it's not a disease that you have it and you pass on. It's a disease that lingers through years to come. And how would you describe then the energy you have before this was diagnosed? How were the dynamics at the time? She's independent, you were doing well, and your sibling is also separate. So how much time were you devoting on her?
Well, prior to the diagnosis, we've always been very close, and I probably am the most similar to my mother in personality, and we've both been self-employed and hard workers, and so it kind of just made sense that I was going to be her caregiver.
So the next thing I want to talk about is the ability to identify a problem like Alzheimer, because it's such a subtle disease that comes on in different fashions. And there are 10 major symptoms that people look for, but they don't come all together.
No.
They're soft signs, and, from just memory issues, from behavior, all things that are taken for granted in
Mm-hmm.
life that you don't expect people to change.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, most of the time you just sort of brush it off and say, well, that's probably some other reasons
Mm-hmm.
and not Alzheimer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did it come to your notice and your family?
Our first sign was at Christmas one year where she asked us over and over, did we get our Christmas gift? She usually
Mm-hmm.
would give each of the kids and grandkids a check, and she asked repeatedly. And even
Mm-hmm.
on our way back home, we'd get calls on the cell, did you get your Christmas check?
Yeah.
And that was like, whoa, Mom, you've asked this quite a few times.
Right.
Then I started becoming aware she had someone assisting her in her business, that she was writing sweepstakes checks repeatedly, sometimes 10, 12 a day.
Mm.
And she was sure she was going to win $1 million. This is very much unlike my
That
mother.
was it. Mm-hmm.
And then slowly but surely, just the continued questions over and over.
Mm.
So we took her to a neurologist
Right.
and had her first diagnoses.
Now, I understand that that itself is not definitive, not a first time visit and it's done.
It isn't.
Yeah. What was your experience?
Well, she was diagnosed with dementia
Mm-hmm.
and possible Alzheimer's in the first diagnoses.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kept accelerating the questions and the
Mhm.
forgetting and or leaving her door open all
Yeah.
day, all
How
night.
long did that take so that people have a frame? When-
Actually, within a year, we ended up taking her to 4 neurologists.
Mm.
And finally, it was like, okay, we have to accept this. This is the beginning of Alzheimer's.
So it's really something that in the space of time, it's not that easy, that it takes energy out of the family to actually take her. And I assume all that time you were the one in charge.
Well, I still lived out of town, so I was
Oh,
back and
okay.
forth for doctor's visits. But we did she had an assistant,
Mm.
but didn't live, in her home.
Right.
And the doctors did insist at that point that she have 24/7
Mm.
assistance in the home.
Now that is expensive.
It is expensive.
This is all out of your own pocket. I
Mm-hmm.
assume that that's hard, especially when you don't have the diagnosis proper, and you are sort of in between. As a medical doctor, a lot of times you have to justify
Mm-hmm.
that you need it in order to get help from the insurance or the government.
And what's strange is she could be just absolutely on top of things. You could have a normal conversation with her. 30 minutes later, it would go into sometimes delusional
Mm-hmm.
thinking. And
Mhm.
again, people would talk to her on the phone and, well, your mom's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with your mom.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't the case. You have to
Yeah.
spend time with them,
Yeah.
and then oh, no, this
Now,
isn't
I think
right.
to the audience, I think that's a very important point you brought up is that when people have brief interactions with a person with this problem,
Mm-hmm.
in their mindset, they may be totally normal,
Absolutely.
and that creates conflict. I mean, that we have total misunderstanding of the evaluation,
Yes.
and I can understand why siblings can be having problems as well as relatives
It isn't,
and
just the
friends.
siblings. My mother's brothers, her siblings live in Missouri.
Mm.
So we would talk to them often. It's like, well, there's nothing wrong with your mom.
Mhm. See, this is a good point that how the social dynamics can be interrupted
Hmm.
deeply and have divisions in families' mode of treatment for her as far as should she be in assisted living? Should she be, at home with who?
Hmm.
Who's going to pay for the bills?
Mhm.
These are big issues. I
Mhm.
mean, and you mentioned that 4 out of 5 families are hard hit
Hmm.
socially
Mhm.
when a problem like that happens.
Well, one of the issues also is if there are financial issues that need to be met,
Mm-hmm.
you need to start thinking of this years
Yes,
before.
of course.
Hmm.
So I think knowing that this takes a while, and her development has been through a year in your case, right? So before she was diagnosed properly, that this is definitely
Oh,
Alzheimer's.
yes.
And having done that, what would you say are the most challenging things that came once her diagnosis was made?
Well, we did put her in assisted living temporarily, just simply because I had to move
Mm-hmm.
down to where she's living, and uh, she would beg and cry for me to take her out of there. And this seems to be a very normal
Mm-hmm.
procedure on their part, where
Mhm.
they want out,
Mhm.
they want to go home,
Right. Right.
constant. And she'd
Mhm.
start crying. And I mean, it was
Mhm.
so emotional for me. I'd visit
Right.
her daily or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
and it just would tear me apart. And she became somewhat violent with me,
Mm.
trying to get keys out of my hand, and
Mm.
she just wanted to go home, run her business, have everything back to normal. Her office was in her home.
Now, so not as a physician, I always like to look in the side of the patient as well as the family.
Hmm.
And I can see that her identity is now changed.
Yes.
Her independence is gone.
Hmm.
She's now reclassified as somebody who's dependent.
Hmm.
Obviously, she cannot drive and go
Hmm.
out on her own.
No.
And she's going to be disciplined to, it's like you're not committed now
Hmm.
into almost a facility that you have no say.
Yes. And
Um,
it's like everything was pulled out
Everything's pulled
from
out.
her.
Right.
I mean, it's so sad.
Right.
Someone that was so vibrant, you look in her eyes and it's like there's
What
nothing
is
there.
left?
Yes, what is left?
Where is your identity? It's
Mhm.
gone.
Mhm.
And I can see that some of my patients, for the first time, had the driver's license taken away, and that was devastating.
Yes.
But to commit somebody in an assisted living
Mhm.
and not get out until you're signed out for
Mhm.
is very embarrassing in many ways.
Well, and in some facilities, there's a lockdown situation because a lot of patients wander with Alzheimer's, and
Mhm.
sometimes in the middle of the night, they'll have the sundowners
Mm-hmm.
syndrome.
Right.
So they can't get in and out even of the hallways
Mm.
without,
Mhm.
a system in line. So
Now,
that's difficult too, because you feel imprisoned.
right. Now, it's a loss not only to her, but as a family, you have
Yes.
lost a mother.
Hmm.
I mean, she still recognizes you, right, at this point?
Yes, but that has gone in and out of stages
Mm.
where sometimes she calls me mom, or
Mm.
are you my waitress, or
Mm-hmm.
kind of odd. And then sometimes, and being blind, oh, there's my daughter. So I'm still real pleased at that.
See, being blind is another
I
handicap,
know.
you know?
Well, she has macular degeneration,
Mm.
so she does see on the peripheral,
Mm.
but I think she knows my voice.
Mm-hmm. Now, so that brings home the fact that, the senses in a person is what gives us life. I
Hmm.
mean, the ability to hear, to voice your opinion, vision, smell, touch, all those are senses. So you have a person who's in somewhat captivity, that her senses are slowly deteriorated and taken away from her.
Hmm.
Her sensitivity or receptivity now is limited to what her environment is. So she no longer interacts socially with her friends.
Hmm.
She's not on the phone with
Hmm.
people,
She
buying
can't see to
things.
dial.
Right. The things I think in life that we take for granted.
Yes.
And when you come and visit her, it's a big plus. To
Hmm.
her, it's a treat.
Hmm.
So in some way, she is going back to a juvenile state.
Hmm.
And the thing is, this may last for years to come. And what does it do to you?
Hmm. Well, my mom's very healthy, actually, physically.
Mm-hmm.
At
Mm-hmm.
96, she's still walking, and we go out 2 or 3 times a week, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll take her shopping, which she loves to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just really difficult when I'm bringing her back and she begs me to
Mm-hmm.
take her home.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't explain to her, Mom,
Yeah.
there's an issue here with your
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Mm-hmm.
I have to keep saying, I understand how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's just heart-wrenching, because
Mm-hmm.
she has cried on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Please let me go with you.
Right,
And
right.
that is very, very difficult.
And you feel that
Oh,
because
gosh.
every time it's a
Oh.
new event.
Yes. And sometimes she'll follow me out, and
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's just very, very hard.
what you have just heard is Gloria telling us a little bit about her experience in terms of her care with her mother the last few years. Now, I think most of us will have by now a flavor of what it is like to take care of one person by one family member. Now, you can imagine what it's like to be taking care of a number of people uh, in a world that is aging, and a lot of us who are going to be living at home. So, the second section is going to be focused on home care and how hard or difficult it is and challenging for individuals to take care of their loved ones at home. And hopefully, that coming out of all this is an idea for the family members to evaluate their current home situation and the family dynamics as to how they can improve and come to terms with some of this. Join you later.